And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And that music means that this must be Wednesday, and this must be the No Show. Good evening and welcome to your No Show, the Radio by Renford Blogtalk radio show on the Renford Broadcast Network that addresses New Thought Metaphysics, which simply means a new way of thinking as we move beyond the physical and discuss the metaphysical aspects of spiritual intervention that incorporates the wisdom of yesterday with the technology of today and allows us to bridge the gap and circumnavigate the spiritual highways of yesterday, today, and tomorrow. My name is Reverend Robert J.V. McMillan, and it is my pleasure to serve as your host and to invite spirit-filled people to share with us how it is that they are showing up in the world, making a difference in their neighborhood mosques, temples, churches, synagogues, and even the neighborhood 7-Elevens, and then taking that to their states, to their counties, to their countries, and ultimately to the world. And believe you me, tonight we really make that true. If you would like to receive advance notices of guests for the No Show, or even suggest guests or topics for the show, send an email to me, Robert J.V. McMillan, care of the No Show, at robtmcm@aol.com, requesting that your name be placed on our confidential service list, and we will keep you informed about who is coming on and when, as well as special opportunities to participate on the program as guest co-hosts and special prizes that we are offering for sharing what your top 5 shows are and why. So stay tuned for more information. Speaking of guest co-host, my guest co-host this evening on the No Show is Miss Carrie Kelly of Sunnyvale, California, and she is no stranger to the show, having been a guest, a co-host guest, and a friend of mine for some time now, and the writer of a phenomenal book. I know that all of you join me in welcoming Carrie to the program as guest co-host tonight. Tonight, though, our guest is my friend, the Reverend Eric Ovid Donaldson, Senior Minister of the Unity Christ Church in Memphis, Tennessee, who has just returned from Malaysia, where he participated in the International World Championship of Toastmasters International as a finalist. And he will be with us on the show tonight. As a matter of fact, I already talked to him, so I know that he is on with us. He will share with us what it was like to be in Malaysia after that country was devastated not once, not even twice, but in even more times than that, in ways more horrific than we can even imagine. Yet the timing for his trip was perfect, and Reverend Eric and his friend Reverend Kevin Ross went there, prayed for and with the Malaysians and the world. And of course, interestingly enough, we prayed for our friends, because that's the way that it works, isn't it? And you know, in life there is serendipity, synchronicity, and spirituality, meaning that there are no accidents, only spiritual opportunities. So tonight we are looking forward to having our friend share with us exactly how it was that he ended up in Malaysia. We want to know also whether or not Reverend Kevin Ross might join us. We're hopeful that he will. And if so, that will be great, because we'd love to have his input, and Reverend Eric will share that with us as well. Reverend Eric Donaldson, good evening, my friend, and how are you?
Good evening. I am well. So good to be on the show tonight.
Absolutely. And, of course, you are no stranger to this show, and we are no strangers to each other. You are certainly one of my best friends, and having spoken at your wonder-filled church there in Memphis, Tennessee on numerous occasions, I know that all of your people who were there were excited about your going, but Eric, I have to tell you, they were even more excited about you getting back, because of all of the things that were going on and because of the things that run through our minds, even as metaphysicians, even as people who know what this philosophy is all about and know that we are to send the Spirit before us to make straight the crooked path and light the darkened hallway. But yet, like the little baby that was asleep or about to go to sleep, and she couldn't quite get there, Eric, and her mommy walked in and she said, Mommy, would you mind sleeping in here? Would you get in bed and just stay with me tonight? And Mommy said, well, of course, sweetheart, yes, I will. But, baby, you know that wherever you are, God is. And the little baby said, yes, Mommy, I do. And she pulled the cover up over her and Mommy. She said, but tonight, Mommy, I want a God with skin on it. So, Eric, we are glad that you are back. Talk to us, my friend.
Oh, I love that story. Well, first and foremost, I want to say happy anniversary to my church family, Unity Christian Church. We're celebrating 62 years of metaphysics in the Memphis area this full month of October. And so happy anniversary, everyone. I know many of you are listening. Also, it is good to be back in the U.S. of A. I am so thankful to my wife and my family who were so understanding to let me go overseas to Malaysia when the word came that I would be invited to the International Speech Contest semifinals with the possibilities of going to the World Championships of Public Speaking there at the Toastmasters International Conference for 2014.
Wow. And that is then what actually took you there. And start back a little further than that in this story, if you will, Reverend Eric, because you just were kind of a participant, as I understand it, in the Toastmasters at your church, just to kind of help your people to get involved in it, because you wanted for them to feel the excitement of that. And so your participation, at first, at least as I understand it, was not that you were going after a trophy, even in the local church, even in your church, but you were just doing something to help your people to understand what this opportunity could do for them. Is that right?
I'm kind of a hands-on pastor in that I get mixed in with the people. That way they can't see me and section me out and say, there he is, go get him. So I just kind of mix in. I work with the congregants, and so when I got there in 2010, I noticed that they had already some things in place. You know, the church is older than I am, so obviously they've had plenty of things in place before I got there in 2010. But one of the things that they got in place was a Toastmasters group. Now, I always wanted to be a part of Toastmasters. I thought it was the greatest thing since sliced bread, especially when I got involved with Les Brown, and he took me under his wing there for a while back in the 90s. So I know about Toastmasters and by the way, Toastmasters International is celebrating their 90th anniversary this month as well. So so in 2010, I said, and you got it right, I said to myself, the least I could do is just encourage the people, the congregants that are involved with Unity Toastmasters. They meet every Thursday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. That would show it would show them that I have a commitment to them if I'm going to get out of my bed to be there at 8 a.m. on a Thursday from 8 to 9. And so I said, okay, I'll do that. And by the way, it couldn't hurt to learn a few things that I could take to, incorporate into my lesson sermons and things of that nature, hone my skills, sharpen my sword. And so I learned a lot. What I learned about Toastmasters is that it's not just for toasting anymore. Actually, it's never been just solely for toasting. It was for so much more. They are dedicated to helping anyone that want to speak better. And we know that communication is oftentimes the main thing when it comes to creating relationships, landing jobs, landing business, landing interviews, all sorts of areas in life where communication is vital and important. And so I became a member, and I learned that they had some things there that I really could use. And I am using right now, such as radio interviews and television interviews, and how to command that. I never had those. I never practiced that. I never knew that there were certain things that I could take to accentuate what I do to be more effective. So I was learning right off of the bat. So never had any idea that there were contests until the president of the club came to me and said, we would like for you to participate in these competitions at the local level, at the group level in our church. And I said, terrific. I would love to do that. Let's do that. And so the running joke, Robert, at my church for the last 2 years prior to this year was I was always coming in runner-up. Everybody else that I ran against were getting the first place trophies. And the pastor of the church did not have, you would think he would have a home advantage. You'd think he would have heaven on his side. No. I was coming in second place, left and right. Hattie Nelson beat me. Lamont Curry beat me. Patricia Snell beat me. And and they deserved it. They deserved it. They were better at what we were talking about, whether it was a humorous contest or an international speech contest. They came with it, and I took notes. I said, And I'll give you an example of that. An example of that was Lamont Curry. I love this example. It was an international speech contest, and I thought I was ready that year, and I came with it. And then it was his turn, and he brought into the church his grandmama's rocking chair. And I said, this brother came all the way to this contest with his grandmother's rocking chair? What a prop. And he sat in that rocking chair and began to tell stories like his grandmama and got everybody singing old church songs and out-preached the preacher that day.
Wow.
He won that day. And I said,
love it.
Props. And since then, I began to put props in my presentations. And that paid off this year.
Wow. Now, in the photograph that the folks saw on the website, as well as that I sent out in my information, there was something that you were holding in your left hand. What was that, Eric? Was that a prop, or was that what was that? What is that?
It is now. That happens to be a little hardware that I brought back from Malaysia. That was the trophy, the first place trophy for the semifinal number 4 in the international speech contest, Toastmasters International Speech Contest in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. There was only 9 semifinal rounds. I was in semifinal round number 4 with 9 other terrific speakers. They came with it. They were outstanding. It was a close call. It was anybody's trophy, and that day happened to be my day. So I found a place underneath the seat on the airlines to get that little trophy home with me. I call that trophy Ndidi. You know, if you get a trophy like that, then you've got to name it. And so Stanley has his cup, the Lombardi has his trophy, and my trophy's name is Ndidi. Yes, Ndidi.
I love that. Now, you and your congregation, your congregants, decided not only was this going to be to Malaysia for you to have an opportunity to bring something back, or even if for no other reason than to just go and participate, but you decided along the way somewhere to make this a trip where you also offered gifts to the Malaysians. And this was before, I believe, the horrific set of occurrences that occurred, or at least the second one. And it may have been after the first one. But tell us a little bit about that, and tell us what the response from the Malaysians were in receiving this outpouring of love from Americans.
Well, as you know, Malaysia had been in the news, and this was actually long before it became clear that I was heading to Malaysia, because the contests were a series of contests that took place not just in the Memphis area, but all around the world, that led or culminated to the semifinals and then the finals, the World Championship of Public Speaking. And so since January, there had been contests, international speech contests at group levels, all around the world. There are over 14,000 Toastmaster clubs around the world, and the majority of them were having their contests, and as did Unity Toastmasters. And so that began in January of 2014, and we didn't have the World Championship finals until August. So in between that time, we heard about MH370, the Malaysia airline flight that was lost, and we still have not found. And then a few months later, we heard about MH17 that was shot down over the Ukraine, yet another Malaysia airline flight. And that caused tremendous devastation. We know a little bit about that type of devastation and grief and bereavement here in the United States, because it was 13 years ago 9/11 took place, and we understand what that can do to the country. It certainly is a horrific thing to have to endure. And here, and we are far and away much larger than Malaysia, an island in the Asian island that I'm telling you, it was just, just so heartfelt to hear day in and day out about what was happening there. And you can also imagine what it can do to their economy, because people then begin to wonder, should they even get on a plane, let alone go to Malaysia and spend tourism dollars and things of that nature. So it was horrific. I could only imagine. And so when it became clear, as the months went by and I kept winning at the local level, then the area level, then the division level, then finally the district level in April, which then gave me the invitation to Malaysia, that's when I began to get ready for the World Championships for Public Speaking. Now, this is where my good friend Reverend Kevin Ross comes in, because less than a year ago, we went over other side of the world for once before, and that was to India on top of Mount Abu in Ahmedabad, India, where we went to a meditation retreat on consciousness and meditation with world leaders from around the world. So when it became clear that I was going to Malaysia, I called my good friend Rev Kev, because when you go halfway around the world, when you go overseas, doesn't even have to be half, it can be a quarter, it can be a third of the way around the world. you don't want to go alone if you can help it. You want
Mm-hmm.
to have someone there that you know has your back, that if anything would happen or should happen, perhaps, those are, there's someone there that can help you get back to the United States. So that's who we were for one another a year ago when we went to India and got the opportunity to visit Gandhi's ashram, and that's who we were for one another this time. So I called him up and I said, I really want you to go with me for two reasons. One, so that I will have someone to go with me and my wife and children won't be concerned about my going halfway around the world and not coming back. And then two, because he's an excellent speaker himself. And I knew that if I was going to do well with this kind of competition, I would need a coach. I would need a coach. Champions have coaches. Think about it. And I said, okay, I need a coach. And I can't think of a better one than Reverend Kevin Ross. So we both began to have this conversation about the Malaysian flights and the airlines and the Malaysian people. And he got this great idea. He said, we shouldn't go in empty-handed. Let's ask our congregations and our friends to send us Hallmark cards. Let's collect American greetings. Let's collect letters. Let's let our children draw up cards of condolences and prayers and well wishes for the Malaysian people. And when we get to Malaysia, let's drop this trunk full of cards to Malaysia Airlines. Maybe we can drop it right there at the ticket counter. They would know what to do with it. They would know where best to give the cards. And then we'll go on our way. But God had another plan. Spirit was, as you say, was synchronizing, divinely orchestrating this divine idea. And so we did our part. We collected everything that we could, and we got on the plane. We got there, and the plane was late. We had some delays in Hong Kong, and we didn't get to Malaysia until 2 a.m. The ticket counters were closed. There was nothing open other than customs. And so we said, well, what are we going to do? Because we realized that the airport was about an hour and a half, about 90 kilometers or more away from Kuala Lumpur. It would mean that we would have to come back. And we didn't know if we would be able to come back to the airport with all that we had to do with the competition until everything was over and we were coming back to go home.
Right.
On the way to the airport, on the way to the hotel from the airport, we heard on the radio that the Malaysia government had declared the Friday that we were there, talking about divine orchestration and synchronicity, the Friday we were there, they declared that day a national day of mourning, August 22nd, 2014. And the reason they did, watch this, the reason they did was because the remains from flight MH17 were going to return to Malaysia on that day.
Wow.
And so they declared a national day of mourning, and they invited everyone to come to the airport and to give honor and have closure for those that were victimized by that terrible occurrence over the Ukraine. We looked at each other and we said, oh, we've got to get back to the airport on that day. And we took a taxi. We got up early that morning, and we took a taxi to the airport. And we didn't even get to the terminal when we were stopped by throngs of mourners that lined the streets. I've never seen anything like this in my life. And we told the taxi cab driver let us out right here, because we both knew that this is where we were supposed to be. You get that feeling that you were right, and that history is making itself, and then you add Eric and Kevin and stir.
Right.
That was the feeling of it, that we were the missing ingredients, or part of the ingredients that belonged in that moment of time. And so we got out of the cab, and we began to interact with the people there. And now, remember, we are in a state, in a country that is Islamic. So we need to be careful about how we conduct ourselves, as in Rome do, as the Romans do. And so we did not want to come off as arrogant or, not taking into consideration the moment and so forth. So we were very careful to interact with the same mood and sentiment as the people that were there. And as it became clear that we could introduce ourselves comfortably, that's exactly what we did. And I let Rev Kev take the lead on this. So Rev Kev, he introduced us and said, we're from America, and we're only here to let you know that there are people on the other side of the world that are thinking about you, that are touched by what you're going through. And so we asked our friends and congregants to make cards that we could carry with us when we knew that we would be on this side of the earth. And we want to give those to you just as a sentiment, a gesture of love and global citizenry. That's all it is. Not religion. We're not trying to convert anybody. He didn't say all this, and he didn't have to, but I'm telling the audience tonight, that wasn't our issue. We weren't trying to convert anybody. We were simply going because you are you and I am me, and we are one. We are simply there to let you know that we love you. And we began to pass out the cards. And they took those cards, and I'm telling you, people were inviting us to their homes. They were inviting us to go eat. One person took us all the way back to Kuala Lumpur. We didn't have to get a taxi. He said, I will take you. I will take you. Get in the car. It was such a powerful gesture that the people began to interact with us. And before you knew it, we stayed there for 3 hours in the hot sun, Malaysian sun, until those ambulances came out of the gates of the airport and processed with the remains of those that were on MH17. They processed down the road, and it was the most connected experience I'd ever had on that level from a global perspective. It was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, mind-blowing, and without question something that will remain in your heart and in your mind and in your spirit from this day forward. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Renford Broadcast Radio Network. We are so glad that you decided to spend this evening with us and to visit on the No Show. This evening is a very, very good friend of the No Show, the Reverend Eric Donaldson of the Unity Christian Church in Memphis, Tennessee. We are talking about his Malaysian experience, he and Reverend Kevin Ross, and how they were there at exactly the right time to do exactly the right thing for the people that needed it the most. My guest co-host is Carrie Kelly, and I want to know, Carrie, if there have been any times in your life when it seems that just the right people we're right there. And I know that you have a few burning questions for Eric as well. So, Carrie, are you on the line with us?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can. Go ahead.
Hi, Carrie.
Hi. It is such an awesome pleasure to hear your experiences. Wow. I'm just speechless, and that doesn't happen very often, honey. I got a lot to say all the time. Oh, my goodness. I really am tongue-tied. I can't imagine that level of connection. I mean, I can imagine it, but to have the opportunity to actually hand your cards to people and see their reactions, to give them the gift right there while, and to be in the thick of it instead of handing it off to the airport personnel and, hoping it reaches where it needs to be. And that was so beautiful. I mean, really beautiful. So, yeah, I can't think of a.
Well, I tell you, you really, Carrie, you really hit on how overwhelming this was for me because I went there for this is all happening in the context of a competition.
Right.
But but when you think about what the competition was all about, communication, then you realize it wasn't about competition at all.
Right.
It was really about connection.
Yeah.
Connection.
Yeah.
And so you got this multi-level, this multi-tier experience that is happening with me. And I'm still.
Yeah, I can feel it. I can feel it. Eric,
it's fresh in my subconscious. It just comes up.
Right. Yes.
And so you got this opportunity to compete and to win and things of that nature. But then when you think about what Toastmasters is all about, when you think about what Unity Christian Church is all about and the love in which we do things there, and then you find yourself in a position to demonstrate on a high level as that, and you have the universe operating in its wonderful way to help you, to push you in the right direction so that you can get it right and you can do it well. It's just an overwhelming and blessed experience. It was so sacred from the moment that I boarded the plane to the moment that I won my semifinals to the moment that we got back to the airport and connected once again with powerful communication of that no words can really describe or express, to the final destination, the World Championship of Public Speaking, where only 9 finalists out of 30,000 contestants worldwide will get the opportunity to experience in any given year. That was just all of that happening at once.
I wonder if you might correlate that experience for our listening audience, both those who are online and who are listening by telephone. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you have a question for Eric, please press 1 on your telephone, and that will alert us to the fact that you have a question or a comment to make, and we will bring you into the conversation. But Eric, I am wondering if you are able to link that, your experiences from there, and from that with some of the things that are going on here and what you would have to say to people in terms of we have so much here. And if you've traveled to a foreign country, I lived in Japan for a number of years and traveled the countryside with a Japanese friend on my motorcycle, on our motorcycles, and going into those little countrysides and meeting with the people who all they had to hand you was a bowl of rice, but yet you knew that was all that they had, and you took it out of respect and out of love and out of the love with which it was given. I'm wondering if you can share with our listeners and those who are online as well any correlation for here.
I think I can, and here's the way that I would do it. I learned something while I was there. I had an opportunity to take a tour and to learn a little bit about Malaysia and its history. And one of the things that I came away with that I think that America could really stand to understand a little bit more is something that that Malaysia has had more experience with, simply because they have been at it for much longer than we have. And I will put it this way. Malaysia first was taken over by the Portuguese, and then the Dutch came in, and then the Chinese came in, and then the British came in, and perhaps I got one or two of those out of order, but it was one country after another, after another, after another, for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, for 500 plus years. And then finally in 1957, Malaysia received its independence. They had their independence. So you have a history of a multitude of people, a multitude of cultures that over a period of time have learned to work with one another fairly well, and particularly around their religious constructs. I found that extremely interesting, that it is an Islamic country. The majority of the people practice Islam. However, you have Hindus, you have Buddhists, you have Christians. They are all there. And the country celebrates, I think they have 27 holidays throughout the year, many of them religious holidays. So you get a sense that, and I got a sense, and I know I'm a tourist, but I got a very definite sense that they knew how to get along and tolerate one another, especially from their religious come-froms. And that's something that we often do not understand or have the tolerance for in the United States, at least not yet. Now, as I mentioned, Malaysia's been at it for a little while longer, so perhaps through their history, circumstances were such that it allowed for them to develop the tolerance, as opposed to what may be occurring here, where we still have a little ways to go, but we are on the path. That's one of the amazing things that I enjoyed about Malaysia, is how easily we were able to get along with one another.
Excellent. I want for you to ponder this next question for a few moments, because I'm going to take a mini commercial break and share other opportunities for our listeners to join the Renford Broadcast Network as well, with other phenomenal shows that are available. But Eric, I want for you to think from the perspective of, in New Thought, in metaphysics, we have a tendency to, as some people say, oh, you people just believe in pie in the sky all of the time, and you're just wanting to be goody-goody two-shoes, and you can't ever understand that there's another side of the coin, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. But yet, what people don't understand, excuse me, is that while you and Kevin were going to Malaysia, Mrs. Donaldson and the little Donaldsons were still here at home, and some of their challenge was in knowing that Daddy's going to be all right, and having to deal with that. And some of your frustration initially could have been with that as well. So I want, when we come back, for you to talk with us, if you will, from that perspective of how do we, as New Thought metaphysicians, and you don't have to be a minister, ladies or gentlemen, to be a New Thought metaphysician. You just have to be someone who believes in a new way of thinking, and meta meaning moving beyond what we see with our eyes and knowing that the Spirit of God is there to handle that situation. This is the Renford Broadcast Network, and we are so excited that you decided to spend a few minutes with us this evening on The No Show. We have a number of shows for you on the Radio by Renford RBR Network shows, and a few of those shows I'm going to tell you about right now. The Night Search Show comes on at 9:30 p.m. on Mondays, and it's hosted by Eddie Middleton from Memphis, Tennessee, and Justin Abner from Orlando, Florida. We invite you to catch that show. The Laws of Material Wealth Personal Development Program is on at 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, and is hosted by James Renford Powell from Memphis, Tennessee. The program was created to provide the commentary on the support material sent for 54 weeks. And if you're wanting to know about material wealth, that's a phenomenal place to start. And so we invite you to do that. That comes on this evening, as a matter of fact, at 8:30 p.m. All of our shows that we will tell you about are 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. The Progressive News Weekly Show at 5:30 p.m. Central Standard Time on Thursdays is hosted by Daryl Clark from New York. The Searchers Roadmap at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time is hosted by my own moderator, Ms. Rhonda Harrison from Red Feather Lakes, Colorado. And the Searchers Roadmap was the first RBR show, and thus it is the longest-running show. Rhonda is a healer and often hosts shaman from around the world at her home 9,000 feet up the mountains of Colorado. The last show I'm going to tell you about doesn't mean that that's all, but I want to get back to my guest. But the last one that I'm going to tell you about is a Soul Town, the Sound of Music, on Saturdays at 3 p.m. And it again comes from Memphis, Tennessee by Reginald Jenkins. Yeah, that's the host. And Reginald was a founding member and CEO of Soundtown Records, which was established after the closure of Stax Records in Memphis. And so from Soul Train to anything else that might be a classic in that genre, you can catch it, and we want for you to do so. This evening, though, right now and right here on The No Show, we are talking with a fabulous gentleman who has had the opportunity to go to Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and to visit with the Malaysians to share gifts with them when his reason for going was one thing, but after you've been in this thing called metaphysics and spirituality for a while, you always know that there's something else. I mean, we always know that whatever the real reason is, it will show up, and God is holding it back from us for the moment, for our own good, in all probability, because perhaps we wouldn't go if that was the case. So, Eric, you've had time to ponder the question that I was posing before we went on our small commercial break. Can you come back and share from the perspective of New Thought and the feelings of emotional energy that might be a part of being concerned?
Oh, absolutely. And certainly there was all sorts of wonderful, quote-unquote, concerns that were swirling around all of this that was happening. You had the Malaysian airline flights being lost and being dropped from the sky, and all sorts of things that have perhaps happened in the past, and those types of things that could generate certain fears and concerns. And interestingly enough, when I won the district finals that then opened up Malaysia for me, the way that I was asked whether or not I would take the trip had that vibration of fear in it. I won't call out any names as to who asked me or anything of that nature, but it was the way that it was asked. Are you going to Malaysia? With the hesitancies and the pregnant pauses, and so that certainly did play into, but it never factored into my decision. I unhesitantly said, yes, I'm going. And my family, I have a wonderful wife, Valencia, of 14 years, and we have two beautiful children, Deja, whose birthday was just yesterday, October 14th.
Oh.
Hi, happy birthday, sweetie. Happy birthday.
Deja.
Yes, Deja is 11 years old, and Devon is 9 years old. And so they certainly want to know that Daddy is okay, that Daddy is there, and they may be initially compelled to seeing and touching and the senses. But we have a saying that we affirm all the time in our churches, and that is, wherever we are, God is, and all is well.
That's right.
And so that, combined with the technologies that I took with me, really helped to quell any concerns that they had. Their concerns were softened when Rev Kev Ross decided that he was going to go with me. Their concerns were softened when I could text. I used the technology and the internet to text message and to actually make a free phone call through the internet just to let them know that Daddy was all right. And so there were ways in which I used divine ideas and technologies to stay close and connected, although I was 10,000 miles away. So that was one thing that I think was really important from a metaphysical perspective, not to let the appearances of everything that was going on have an overwhelming influence on what Spirit was telling me to go and do. The other piece that I would add very quickly is to reflect on what this moment, what culminated into this moment. And when you see how everything was divinely, beautifully orchestrated, even from as far back to my childhood, and I've had plenty of time to reflect on this, then you know metaphysically that this was something that was coming. It didn't happen overnight, but it was something that was thought, it was something that was desired, it was something that was fulfilled in me. Listen, if you know my family, and you know most of my family, you know my mom, you know my dad, my family is one of the most extroverted families in America. My mom was a social worker for the Detroit Public Schools for 25 years. She knows how to get her point across. My brother is the consummate salesman. He could sell ice cubes to an Eskimo, and is handsome, too. He got the good looks and the Donaldson smile and the whole 9 yards. He's very convincing. He can get his point across. My sister, Angela, the socialite of the family. Everybody knows Angela, and if you don't know, well, you ought to know that Angela can have her way, and she knows how to get around Detroit in particular. She rules Detroit, much to, and I think maybe the mayor even knows that too. But she knows, she's extroverted. She knows how to get her point across. My father was so loving. They called him Honey. He was so sweet. He knew how to have and to get his way. But who am I in all of this? What am I in all of this? Where is my voice in all of this? For 45 years of my life, Robert, whenever I opened my mouth, people would say, "Can you speak up a little bit louder? We can't hear you." 45 years, because I was so soft, I was so gentle, I was so soft-spoken, I was so reserved, I was so silent in some instances. But here I am, the preacher, and here I am, now one of the best speakers in the world.
That's right.
Tell me, how does that happen? Unless it was beautifully and divinely orchestrated so that my purpose can be fulfilled. Metaphysically, then this is, and it's not just me. This is available to everyone who's available to it. Whatever it is that is deep, as a deep-seated desire in your soul to do or to be, say yes to it. Say yes to the universe. Know that that desire already exists. It could not not exist, and you feel it, and you have it. Although it hasn't appeared, know that it can appear if we say yes to it and allow the process to fulfill itself. And that's all I did. Metaphysically, this was a magnificent demonstration of God.
Yeah, and that's what goes on in our lives. But the awareness, to be spiritually aware, spiritual cognition then comes into play, Eric, so that we are aware of the blessings that are coming about, and then we start looking for them. And once we start looking for them, then we see them everywhere. It doesn't mean that they weren't there all along, but our awareness and our cognitive, spiritual concern for good then makes them show up even more. And so I know, knowing you, and having done the meditation for the first Sunday that you were back at One God, One Thought Center for Better Living in Baltimore, Maryland, and mentioning your dad. And we have that on tape somewhere, actually, as well. I remember the energy that was part of that, and that same energy is what exists right here and right now. So what you did, it seems to me, is to put that out. And once you put it out, then everything fell into place for that to come about, and it was not of your own volition, because had it been, it would not have worked out in that wonder-filled way. But you were, I hear you saying, you were a willing vessel to be used by Spirit to accomplish its objective. Is that right?
That's right. And so gentle souls like me can make a big splash in the world affairs. Watch for those who are really quiet and in the corner. They usually have something to say. They might pop out, and you have no idea that it's coming. I'm living proof of that. Absolutely.
Very, very well said. Very well said. And that's a wonderful segue. Again, ladies and gentlemen, I invite you. We have 2 or 3 minutes left to visit with Eric to talk about the Malaysian experience and the gift giving and the gift getting. And what I'm getting from this is that he actually got more than he gave, because of the fact that that's the way that it always works with Spirit. Whenever it is that we tune in, turn on, and allow ourselves to be used, and Spirit then blesses us even more than we were meaning to be a blessing to someone else. So, Eric, during this last period of time, I'd like for you to share where the church is, where people might reach out and touch you and hear more about this experience, if there's a website or anything to that nature that you'd like to share with them, and where, of course, they can hear you on Sunday mornings in Memphis, Tennessee.
Absolutely. I want everybody to come to Unity Christian Church on 3345 McCorkle Road, zip code 38116 in Memphis, Tennessee. We're open on Sundays. Our services are at 11 a.m., and and this is a perfect time to come. You'll get to hear me, but we have some special speakers and guests that are here for our anniversary celebration, which we have celebrated the entire month. This coming weekend, we have none other than the Reverend Brian Griffin from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He's coming to share with us this Saturday with a workshop that begins at 1 p.m., the Four Agreements workshop, and then he's going to share with us on Sunday for our lesson sermon. Then the following week, on my birthday weekend, the 25th and the 26th of October, we have from Miami, Florida, the Reverend Charlene Manuel. And I'm telling you, she is just a dynamic individual and speaker in her own right. But we also have other activities that are going on. So I want to invite you to my specialty, which is healing. We have a healing workshop that is taking place every other Wednesday for the rest of October and November. And you can come on Wednesday night at 7 p.m. on October 22nd, and we will get whatever might be ailing you, whatever needs to be healed, whether it's emotional or physical or otherwise. We can help you through the practice of universal spiritual principles. We will put you in position to allow the healing presence and power to operate in you, through you, and as you, and give you the opportunity to do what is natural to you. Healing is natural. It doesn't have to be considered supernatural. The healing presence and power already is and is already there. We just have to put ourselves in position through our minds, our thoughts, our feelings, our words, our actions, our reactions, in order to get the healing that we so deserve. And so we want you to come and visit us for that. And then I want to share this as well, because this has been and I can do it. We have had an amazing response from our Malaysian experience. I've received a proclamation from the Memphis City Council. I've been on television interviews 3 times over thus far, and of course the No Show now, and there are more on their way. And so it's been decided that in December we are going to have a red carpet event whereby I will give the 2 presentations that I gave in Malaysia. We're calling it From Memphis to Malaysia, and I want you to be a part of it.
We will be there at that church.
Excellent.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for taking this time from your schedule to be with us. My guest this evening has been the Reverend Eric Ovid Donaldson, pastor of the Youth Church, Memphis, Tennessee. We are so grateful, Eric, that you took this time to stop by and visit with us and share the Malaysian experience with us. Share the importance of giving and receiving, of allowing the circle to be complete. And when we do that, then God blesses us and blesses us really, really well. I want to thank my co-guest host, for Miss Carrie Kelly, for being around and being available. She is a phenomenal lady, and we thank her. Next week, my guest is Mimi Lupin from Hot Springs, Arkansas. And Mimi is going to talk to us about doing that which is ours to do in the way that we need to do it. Eric, as always, I thank you so much for your love and your light, your peace and your joy, your goodness and your grace. I know that today you will go forth and continue to bless others as you have blessed us, and allow the spirit of goodness and greatness and God that is within you to be for everyone involved. And so we thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This is The No Show. My name is Robert J.V. McMillan. As always, we look forward to seeing you again next week, same time, same station, 347-838-9142. Tell your friends. They don't want to miss it. We'll see you here. We appreciate you. We love you, and we know it to be so. And so it is. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. We're out of here. Thanks, Eric.